I'm trying to protect her. I'll take care of the girl's life, and I'll go my own way. You can't go. I will go. I said you can't. Why can't I? Because you're angry, Urkin. Don't misunderstand. It's not because you're jealous of him. But let's be honest, a girl like that isn't someone you would normally choose. She's not in your league. And forcing something never brings happiness, Urkin. You should find your own happiness. I'm not sleeping here anymore. You're engaged now, remember? So? Since when do you get to make decisions for me like that?
Why?
Just because you saved my life, does that mean I belong to you now? These kinds of tense and emotional confrontations perfectly reflect the atmosphere building in episode 5 of You Are the One I Love. The story has now reached a point where emotions can no longer be hidden and hearts are being tested in the harshest possible way. Especially between Dyel and Urkin, the love that has been growing silently but never openly confessed seems ready to reach a major breaking point in this episode. For a long time, both of them have been carrying feelings they refuse to admit, feelings buried under pride, misunderstandings, and outside pressure. But the events of this episode push those feelings dangerously close to the surface. Urkin's engagement to Bersin is not just a formal event or a family decision. For Dyel, it becomes the beginning of a deep emotional wound. Even though she tries her best to hide what she feels for Urkin, the moment she learns that he is engaged to another woman feels like the ground disappearing beneath her feet. The man she has silently loved is suddenly building a life with someone else, and the pain of that realization shakes her deeply. What hurts her even more is the way Urkin seems to accept the engagement so easily. From Dyel's perspective, it looks as if he moved on without hesitation, as if everything between them meant nothing at all. That perception cuts deeply into her heart. The disappointment slowly turns into anger, and the anger transforms into wounded pride. Dyel begins to act not with her emotions, but with her pride. Because for her, the issue is no longer just about love. It is about dignity. It is about protecting her heart and refusing to let anyone see how deeply she has been hurt. At that moment, Dyel makes a decision that shocks everyone around her. Determined to take control of her life again and refuse to remain the person left behind, she decides to marry Kadir. On the surface, this decision might seem impulsive, almost like a reaction made in the heat of the moment. But in reality, it is the result of a storm that has been building inside her for a long time. Every suppressed emotion, every moment of silence, and every unspoken feeling finally pushes her to make a choice that could change everything. For Dyel, this decision is not only about moving forward, it is also about sending a message. She refuses to allow Urkin to think that losing her would be easy. In some ways, this decision becomes the quiet rebellion of a broken heart. If Urkin can move on with someone else, then she will show that she can do the same. However, the news that Dyel plans to marry Kadir spreads quickly, and when it reaches Urkin, the impact is immediate and overwhelming. For him, the news lands like a thunderbolt. Although he has been trying to suppress his emotions and convince himself that the engagement to Bersin was the correct decision, hearing that Dyel might marry another man forces him to confront a reality he has been avoiding. The possibility of losing Dyel completely suddenly becomes real. And that realization changes everything. Until that moment, Urkin had convinced himself that what he felt for Dyel was something he could control, something he could ignore in favor of family expectations, responsibility, and logic. But the thought of her belonging to someone else awakens emotions he can no longer hide from himself. The jealousy, the anger, and the desperation he begins to feel reveal just how strong his feelings for Dyel truly are. For the first time, Urkin understands that what he feels is not temporary, not confusion, and certainly not something he can simply forget. It is love. Deep, complicated, and impossible to ignore. The idea of Dyel building a life with another man fills him with a sense of panic he cannot explain. He realizes that if he remains silent now, he may lose her forever. And that possibility terrifies him more than anything. Because of this, Episode 5 becomes a turning point not only for Dyel, but for Urkin as well. The decision Dyel makes acts almost like a wake-up call for him. It forces him to admit truths he had been refusing to face. He begins to see clearly that he is jealous, that he cannot imagine a future without Dyel, and that his heart may have belonged to her long before he was willing to admit it. But by the time Urkin reaches this realization, things are no longer simple. Dyel's heart has already been deeply wounded, and her trust in him has been shaken. Even if Urkin finally decides to fight for her, it may not be enough to erase the pain she has experienced. At the same time, Kadir's role in the story begins to grow increasingly important. Until now, he has mostly existed on the sidelines, quietly caring for Dyel and waiting for an opportunity to be closer to her. But with the possibility of marriage now on the table, Kadir suddenly becomes a central figure in the unfolding conflict. The question that begins to emerge is whether Kadir truly believes this relationship can become something real, or if he senses that Dyel's heart still belongs to someone else. Even if he notices the lingering connection between Dyel and Urkin, his own feelings for Dyel may prevent him from stepping aside. Instead, he may become even more determined to hold on to the chance he has been given. This creates a powerful emotional triangle between the three characters. Dyel is trying to move forward and protect herself from further pain. Urkin is struggling with the realization that he may lose the woman he truly loves. And Kadir stands in the middle, hoping that the future he imagines with Dyel can actually become reality. As these tensions grow, the story moves into a much more intense and emotional direction. Pride, jealousy, regret, and love all begin to collide, creating moments that will test every character involved. Each decision they make will carry consequences, not only for themselves but for everyone connected to them. Episode 5, therefore, marks the beginning of a new phase in the story. The time for hiding emotions is coming to an end. Dyel and Urkin can no longer pretend that nothing exists between them. Whether they admit it or not, their feelings are becoming impossible to ignore. And as the pressure builds, the biggest question remains: will Urkin finally find the courage to fight for Dyel before it is too late, or will pride and past mistakes push them even further apart? Whatever the answer may be, one thing is certain. This episode pushes the story of You Are the One I Love into a far more dramatic and emotionally powerful direction than ever before. Dyel's decision to marry Kadir raises a question that quickly becomes one of the biggest sources of curiosity in the story. Is this truly an opportunity for Kadir, or is it the beginning of an even greater emotional conflict? Because the undeniable truth that Dyel's heart still belongs to Urkin makes everyone question how strong this relationship can actually be. All of these developments push the story of the series into a far more dramatic and intense direction. The situation is no longer just about two people and their complicated feelings. In episode 5 of You Are the One I Love, the story reaches a point where turning back becomes extremely difficult. In previous episodes, the emotions between Dyel and Urkin had been growing steadily, yet neither of them had the courage to openly express what they truly felt. But in this episode, that emotional tension seems ready to reach a breaking point. Urkin's engagement to Bursun in particular creates a storm in Dyel's life. For Dyel, the engagement is not just news she hears about. It becomes the moment when her heart feels like it shatters. For the first time, she believes that the man she loves is genuinely ready to build a future with someone else. The disappointment she feels does not remain simple sadness. Instead, it sparks a deep internal battle filled with anger and wounded pride. Dyel becomes convinced that Urkin chose to get engaged to Bursun without even thinking about her feelings, and because of that she begins to believe that following her heart no longer makes sense. At this point, she takes a radical step and decides to marry Kadir. However, this decision appears to come not from her heart, but from her broken pride. While she tries to convince herself that she can forget Urkin and move on, part of her also wants to send him a message that even if she lost him, her life is not over. But Dyel's decision does not only affect her own future, it completely shakes Urkin's world as well. And that brings us to the end of today's analysis. The story of Dyel and Urkin is reaching a point where emotions, pride, and difficult choices are about to collide in a way we haven't seen before. The big question now is whether love will finally overcome pride, or if the mistakes they've made will push them even further apart. If you enjoyed this analysis, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel series World so you don't miss any upcoming episode breakdowns and drama updates. And before you go, here's a question for you. Do you think Dyel will really marry Kadir, or will Urkin finally confess his feelings before it's too late? Write your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to read what you think. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.